In Double Feature. I'm Ryan.
I'm Nathan.
And this is the podcast where we review two movies every week, every Tuesday and Thursday. And today we're going really over the top with 1987's Over the Top, directed by, he's back, same director from The Apple, Menachem Golan.
So you know it's going to be a hit.
Oh, yeah. You know, Canon. When you see that Canon logo before these movies, you know you're getting quality.
Oh, yeah.
This is a Sylvester Stallone movie. This is one of the movies that's attributed to helping kill Canon because they went outside of their formula. Like we kind of said before with The Apple, that this is kind of one of those movies where Canon's formula was make a movie really cheap, make a little bit of profit, move on to the next one. And that was just kind of what their formula was. This one, they spared no expense, and it tanked pretty hard.
Yeah. Wow, a trucker arm wrestling movie tanking hard? Who would have thought?
I mean, you think arm wrestling, you think box office gold, and, well, estimated budget about $25 million, made about $16 million.
Don't even know how this movie cost $25 million to make, other than Sylvester Stallone. Because I know that was probably the reason they put that so much money into this, because it has Sylvester Stallone.
So that's kind of like the story about how it came to be, is that Menachem Golan was pestering Sylvester Stallone for years to make movies with him, and Sylvester Stallone kept saying no way, and eventually it got to the point where he offered like ridiculous amounts of money, and Sylvester Stallone's like couldn't say no at that point. And this is kind of like that. I think at this time, this was like a record amount of money paid for like an actor for one movie role, because
wow.
I remember Jim Carrey, back in 1994 getting paid like $20 million to do the Cable Guy.
Yeah.
And that was
outrageous.
That was outrageous at the time. That was a game changer.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this was kind of like one of those moments where they paid an actor a stupid amount of money to be in this movie. And like I said, it was Sylvester Stallone was just kind of like, I don't care, no one's going to see this movie. And that's pretty much like the thought, is that nobody would actually watch it. And boy, was he right.
Yeah, right. Yeah. The thing is $16 million for a Canon movie is actually pretty good, but whenever it's an overly expensive Canon movie, it's like not enough.
Well, yeah, and he said like his whole philosophy was, because, around the time it was probably like they'd spend like a couple million, like 3, 4, maybe 5 at the most to make a movie. And it would just, it'd make about 10 to 15 million, and that was a hit. It made money. And at that point, they were kind of like, they even interviewed him at one point where they were like, oh, well, what kind of movie would you make for $30 million? And this is before Over the Top. He said, oh, $30 million. I couldn't make them. I wouldn't know what to do with $30 million. I could maybe make 30 movies with that amount of money, but never one.
Wow.
I think it was this movie and Superman 4 is kind of like the ones that Canon took a huge loss, and they were kind of basically being supported by, like I said, it was one of those systems where it was just kind of like a Jenga tower. Like they pulled one wrong block and the whole thing just kind of went down.
Yeah, where every movie hinged on the success of the company, which is not a good way to run your business. Yeah, and especially on a movie like Over the Top. Now, I'm going to rag on this movie, but I did have a good time watching this movie. It's one of those.
It is. Like we've talked about some before where even though they're cheesy, I actually think they're really fun. This is kind of like one of those where it falls into the category. It's like it's so bad and so ridiculous that it's kind of good, or it's like it's pretty fun.
Yeah, I have seen this movie before because my father likes this movie. I grew up with the Kenny Loggins song from this movie, "Meet Me Halfway." My dad really likes that song.
Really, I did not like that song.
No, I mean I don't. I don't know how to judge the song properly because I grew up with it, but yeah, I've listened to that song a lot. So I've kind of had this movie with me for a little bit, and yeah, I mean it's a fun movie. I could recognize it for what it is. It's really bad, but you know what? It's a damn good time.
Yeah, I mean the whole movie it starts out like so ridiculous because, well, first off, Sylvester Stallone's character's name is Lincoln Hawk.
What a
So
name, dude.
what a name. What a legend. He's a truck driver. He shows up to his son's graduation at military school.
Hmm.
And well, he's like a little kid or something. But anyway, he shows up there and they're like, oh, he goes to the principal office and they're like, oh, your dad's here. He's like, my dad? Who's my dad? And they're like, oh, this guy's your dad. And you have to drive in a car with him across country. I'm like, what?
Yeah. Who decided this was okay? I love this kid's reaction because like he's like, your dad's here to drive you. And he's like, I need some identification. Can I get some ID on this man?
So I got to ask, what did you think of this kid in this movie?
Oh, he's awful. I hate being mean to child actors, but he's really bad.
He's such a
looking at him.
He's such a brat. I hated this kid. He's so annoying.
Yeah, it makes sense. He won a Razzie, which I think is really mean to give a kid a Razzie. That's like horrible, but it's kind of deserved. That's so mean, right? Like,
I mean, if it's deserved, I mean, if you're gonna give it to him, but God, this kid just. First off, he's such a little shit. I mean, I don't use that word lightly, but it's just he's so annoying where to the point where, so like they go to a diner and Sylvester Stallone is like hulked up in this movie. He's got like muscles on his muscles, and this kid's like, he's like, let me get a steak, let me get a, and he's like, don't you know steak and all that food is bad for you? You should eat some healthy stuff. Eat tuna with spring water, and just I'm like. Have you seen Sylvester Stallone? I think he knows how to freaking eat food properly.
Yeah,
like,
this dude's built, and he's like, oh, "You're gonna die from cholesterol poisoning." Like, all right, okay, kid.
That's what makes me think. Like, maybe because they interviewed the original screenwriter, and apparently this was not what he intended for this movie at all. It was supposed to be like a really heartwarming story between father and son, and very, very low emphasis on trucking and arm wrestling. And but instead, that becomes the entire plot of the movie.
Yeah.
So, and they even said the screenwriter, when he watched this, cried in the theater when he saw this on screen.
But like from pain. Okay.
Because he was so sad.
Yeah, it's all there, right? Like, it seems like it could be a nice movie. They're road trip movies. I love them. Road trip movies are a lot of fun. And like you bring in the family element, like father, son stuff, it could be good, but it becomes so weird. Sylvester Stallone is a pretty bad dad because one of the most memorable scenes is when he forces his child to arm wrestle a kid in a diner. Like literally, it's like, hey, you look like a mean kid, and then like forces him to arm wrestle. It's like so mean.
Well, I didn't get that either. I mean, so he's never seen his son arm wrestle. The only time he showed him like how to pull a weight down like arm wrestling, and so he's like, I think you could take him, mate. And then they had the arm wrestling scene, and you know, the kid at first, it's 2 out of 3, and at first he loses and he runs out of the diner crying. And he's like, you made me look like an idiot. You made me look like a fool. Well, congratulations. And then Sylvester Stallone gives this big speech, which, by the way, Sylvester Stallone is so lazy in his acting in this movie. He just does not give a crap at all.
Yeah, I really did not enjoy him at all in this movie. There's a really awful scene where they try to include like arm wrestler footage, like why they're arm wrestling, and everybody else is doing great. I think the other arm wrestlers are like, you know, I'm doing this because I want to crush them, you know, like kind of like wrestling. And then Sylvester Stallone's like, I just want a truck. You know, I just want a brand new truck. I don't care much about winning or the glory. And it's like, who gets amped up over that?
I know. He's just, it's so funny. Like you said, like they're all giving these really promos, like, and like one guy's like, he doesn't have a prayer. I'm going to kill him. Like, it's just, I'm going to murder him. Like, and one guy's like, these are my fists, these are my weapons, like these are how I get fights done. And Sylvester Stallone's like, I can use a truck right now. And there's one guy though I actually think it was funny what he said. He's like, I don't need people telling me I'm the best. If I win, it's because I wanted to be the best, not because he's the best, it's because he wanted to be.
Yeah, I know that too. Yeah, we're talking about this now, and I'm realizing how jumbled this movie is because it's like family son or father-son trip, and then the last 30 minutes are an arm wrestling competition, and also it's like a kidnap heist movie at points too.
So that is like when we say the arm wrestling competition, it takes up like a third of the movie.
It does,
like,
yeah.
Like they are at this arm wrestling competition. Like the whole point, like for an hour, it's like leading up to the arm wrestling. They're going on this road trip together. Mm-hmm. And then for like the last 30 minutes, it's like a montage / like kid like running to go see his dad at the arm wrestling show.
Yeah, and it's crazy at the arm wrestling show. The kid's hardly even there for it. You're right. Like it's mostly because there's a weird subplot where Robert Loggia is the kid's grandpa, and
which I was glad to see Robert Loggia.
Oh yeah, Robert Loggia will do literally anything. But he's trying to keep this kid away from Sylvester Stallone. For reasons like I can't really tell other than Robert Loggia just doesn't like Sylvester Stallone. Like he's just like, I don't like you.
They don't say it at all. I mean, they imply that I guess you don't like him because he's a trucker. He thinks he's a loser or something like that. But he says, like, they don't ever explain why he doesn't like him at all. And even like the kid's like, my grandfather told me you sell drugs or you're a violent man. And he's like, is that what your grandfather said about me? Like, I don't care about your grandfather. And there's just, so there's that whole subplot, which is never real. That whole subplot is really weird because like Sylvester Stallone and his wife / the boy's mother, they don't ever explain why they split up ever.
No, and they seem like they're in pretty good relationship. They like send letters to each other, but they just aren't. They haven't been together since the boy was born, and it doesn't explain it because truckers don't live their life in the road. They go home sometimes. They don't constantly they have a home, a base, and then they go out. So I don't understand.
Right. Well, they said because he even asked him multiple times, like, why did you leave? And he just said, I had my reasons. Like and they even say that's not an answer. And then he doesn't expound upon that at all.
Yeah. That's why I don't like Sylvester Stallone's character in this movie. I really don't, because I just don't get his motivation, because like his money winnings wasn't even for a good cause, because his wife is dying from cancer, right? I guess it's cancer. Well, his wife is just dying. I guess I just assumed cancer.
She's dying to advance the plot.
Yeah, exactly. And he could be just donating money for like medical bills or something, but no, he just really wants a new truck. That's what the money goes for. Which I don't know.
Yeah. Well, he wanted the truck, but he had a truck, so he sold the truck to have betting money to bet on himself. Which he sells the truck for $7,000, and that just seems so. I mean, I know this is 1987, but even then, for a rig like that, I would think it would be a lot more.
Yeah, it's weird too, because I think they try to portray it as like a piece of junk truck, because the son hops in at one point. He's like, "What is this? It looks like," he doesn't say, he just says it looks awful, and I don't know, it doesn't look that bad. It looks like a truck,
Yeah, it's. I don't know. The whole movie's like they're in the is and at one point the kid actually drives the truck, which that's crazy. So I've driven a truck, not like that, but I've driven like something and I had to haul like a big 20-foot trailer. It is scary. It is nerve-wracking. It is not like when you first do it, it's like, oh my God. And there's so many factors that you have to be aware of, and this one's just like little kid just driving a big truck, and he's like, you need to drive this because he keeps calling Sylvester Stallone stupid and this and
This awful kid.
and this he's like, hey, you so smart, you could drive this truck.
Child's play, right?
Yeah.
I can't do a Sylvester Stallone impression. I'm not trying. I can't. Ryan, you're great at it. You're doing a great job. I need you to say, I think we're going to end up breaking this knob. He does.
We will end up breaking this knob, Mike.
Yeah, because he also says that in Italian stallion. Yeah, that's my joke.
Does he?
No, he doesn't. That was my joke.
There you go.
Yeah,
there
because this kid's fight gets the radio, right? Like back and forth, turning it on, turning it off. Oh, this kid seemed like a pain to have in the car.
Well, like, so, I mean, I kind of get it because he doesn't know who this guy is. He doesn't know that this is his dad and all that. And they even say, like, the kid even says, like, well, how come you never wrote to me or anything like that? He's like, what are you talking about? I wrote to you all the time. And so I'm like, okay, well, they're going to reveal that the grandfather was, like, holding all these letters. But then he goes into, like, his mom's room and looks in her purse, and then he finds them in there. I'm just like, so wait a minute, like, was the mom hiding the letters or was the grandfather?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, because it was definitely like in his mom's place, unless Robert Loggia has a nice collection of dresses and purses. I don't know. That's all him, but I don't know. It was odd. It's almost like the mother had a change of heart when she got sick. It was like, oh, you need to see your father. I don't know. It's poorly explained. It's just a device to show like, oh, the kid's like, oh, my dad does love me. I'm going to go across country to see his arm wrestling show.
And, they go there and, like I said, he's just spitting so much venom at Sylvester Stallone, so much so that he runs in the middle of freeway traffic, like, to get away from him.
Oh, my God. Like, he causes car crashes and nothing is said about it. Like, cars literally wreck on the road because of him. And, like, what, did Sylvester Stallone just say, I'm sorry? Oh, I apologize.
My kid ran out. Sorry. And just
that's the way it is.
Like, like all these kids running out in the middle of traffic. And there's really funny lines in there where he's just like, the kid's like screaming, like, I hate you. I hate you. And he's like, oh, fine, you can hate me. That's somewhere. I can start somewhere. Really, like, other dumb stuff was they're in the truck and it seems like days have gone by at this point, but I guess they're still on the first day or whatever. But they're in the truck, and the kid's going to be like, "Are we going to stop at a hotel or something?" He's like, "I figure we can sleep in the truck. That's what all truckers do." Mm-hmm. And it's not like there's a bed in there. Most like of those trucks usually have like a bed in the back or whatever, like in the cab where you can just like climb back in. But this one, they're just sleeping in the seats. And Sylvester Stallone, it was like, if you get uncomfortable in the middle of the night, you can use my shoulder as a pillow.
Wow. Very nice of Sylvester Stallone to offer his hard,
like his
arm.
His chiseled shoulder as a pillow. So comfortable.
Also, there's a really like wild shot of Sylvester Stallone talking to his wife, and in the background you see his son get kidnapped by two men and put into like a van. It's like all in the background, and then there's a wild car chase scene in a movie that doesn't feel like it should have one.
No,
cars are wrecked, and it's absolutely insane.
Yeah, there's a car chase in there. There's a scene where Sylvester Stallone drives through Robert Loggia's like big gate, and they to try to get save Mike, but he ends up getting arrested. Mm-hmm. So there's that scene where he's just driving the big truck through there, and at the jail, Robert Loggia's lawyer's like, hey, if you sign away your rights to your son, then we'll drop all the charges. And his son comes into the jail and he's like, Mike, we could live together if you want. And Mike's like, well, where would we go? Like, what would we do? I mean, like, do you have a plan? He's like, no.
Yeah, that kid was asking real questions.
Yeah. They just like, the only thing I can promise is we'll be together. And And they're like, and even the kid's like, I can't go with you if you don't have a plan.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, that kid has good reason. Like, good for him. I guess I don't know. It just took finding the letters and getting to that crazy arm wrestling show. Talk about absolutely like insane. There's a dude that eats a lit cigarette before he goes into arm wrestle. What was that? I
I
don't
don't even remember that, so you're gonna have to
You
refresh me.
don't? Oh, yeah, it's the big bald dude. And like the first time when Stallone loses, right off the bat, he loses his first round. He takes a lit cigarette, puts it in his mouth, and like eats it.
Oh,
Yeah, just to like intimidate him.
I guess you could maybe if you chomp down on the flame. I don't know.
I mean, you could, but you don't have to. Like, I don't know. It's definitely the arm wrestling portion of this
You get
is treated like a pageant, like huge, like it's not serious, not even close to serious.
how much steroids do you think were passed around on that set? Like,
An insane amount. I can
I mean,
only
like
imagine.
all those guys are just like their arms look like they're inflated by like balloons. They're massive.
Yeah, they really are. Like I can't believe it. Are these are these wrestlers at all? They look like they could be wrestlers.
No, those in that scene, it was all they actually hired like professional arm wrestlers.
That's cool.
So
Wow.
like even the main guy, the main bad guy in this movie, the main bad arm wrestler, he it was a professional arm wrestler, and then he actually had a somewhat of a smaller movie career after this. He was like playing a lot of bit roles, but yeah, they hired a bunch of those guys, and I was watching interviews like leading like afterwards, and they interviewed like the little kid, and he was there at the same time, and he was saying like that guy that played a bull, he trained him how to actually do arm wrestling.
Oh, that's fun. That's cool. I mean, that's neat. I wonder, are arm wrestling shows like this?
I doubt it. I
No,
honestly doubt it.
no.
I can't.
You had me watching, I guess.
You'll have to turn into your local pay-per-view to see if it really is like that, Nathan.
Yeah, Arm
Hmm.
WrestleMania 36, whenever that airs.
But you did mention a wrestler, and I noticed one right away.
Yeah.
And there is a very famous wrestler who is in this movie. He played Robert Loggia's bodyguard, and that is the legendary Terry Funk, who is a former world champion. And he is insane. He's a crazy person. I sent you videos of him just so I can give you a little bit of context, but
Yeah.
he wrestles like later in his career, because like, and before he's just like a regular like Texas, I'm a tough guy type of thing. And but then later in his career, when he just got older, he just like, I'm going to do the craziest matches I can possibly do, where he just almost dies every match.
Yeah, I mean, that's how you get people watching, I guess. I mean, I watched like a few things like where he drank like he poured motor oil on himself. A guy drinks motor oil in this movie, but in real life, he poured motor oil on himself. And he also fought Leatherface in Japan. That was one of the wildest things that I've ever seen.
And that's I can tell you there's honestly crazier stuff out there. So
I'm
that is,
sure.
but yeah, it was really funny to see that, and I'm just like, oh yeah, there he is. So like at the end of the movie, when Mike, when he steals the truck, he steals Robert Loggia's truck and actually drives to the airport and gets on a flight unattended, buys a flight, and then flies out to Vegas.
Yeah. And you can definitely tell when he's driving that truck that is a grown man in the driver's seat on any exterior shot.
I could tell that when it was during the big rig scene when he was driving the truck, because there was a scene where they didn't even like back away. Like it is very clearly like an adult like behind the wheel of that truck.
I don't know. I even like think back in the day on like film, even with the graininess in VHS, you could still tell. Like it's like fully there for you.
I guess, but
No.
they did not do a good job of hiding it. And
No.
but anyway, he shows up to the arm wrestling event, and he's there, and Robert Loggia finally sees that the boy's there, And instead of grabbing the kid and running out, he's like Mike,
Yeah.
as soon as this is over, we're leaving. Like,
Yeah, what was that? Yeah, like we're gonna finish the show and then we're going. Like Robert Loggia actually became invested in it. It was so I didn't get that line. And then he lets him once, Sylvester Stallone wins, he lets the boy go up and hug him after he wins.
and he just kind of gives that like approving face, like, okay, that's his son or whatever.
He won.
Because he won an arm wrestling event. It's all good.
Yeah. Um, God, what a movie. An exciting trip.
So, like I said, it was not very successful. Sylvester Stallone does not like this movie at all, and
No.
it's not surprising considering his presence in this movie.
Mhm.
And even he said, like, if he was directing it, he would make like the arm wrestling a lot more ominous. He wouldn't have had all these cheesy 80s songs throughout there because all the songs in this movie dates this movie horribly.
Yeah,
Like
it really sucks. Because it's done by Giorgio Moroder, who's like really big, like 80s. He did a lot of 80s music, a lot of background stuff, and he got hired for this. And his idea of a soundtrack was just getting a bunch of rock 80s band and 80s pop bands, and and a lot of it's not very good, unfortunately.
Yeah, and Stallone said he would have switched to like a score for this movie. He would have made the arm wrestling event a lot more ominous because, I mean, it's trying to follow like, it's like a road trip version of Rocky kind of. It's like they're doing the training montages and all of that, and they had like the big event at the end in Vegas. So it's kind of like, it's kind of like they're doing the plot line to Rocky, which I love Rocky. I mean,
Yeah, it's one of my
not
favorites. Yeah.
I mean, so much so that my dog is named Rocky. So
Hmm.
that's how much I love those movies. So it's not that I don't like Sylvester Stallone or like even like those types of movies. It's just done so poorly.
Yeah, I'd compare it maybe to Rocky 4, which kind of came at the same time, which I love Rocky 4. I think it's better than this movie, but Rocky 4 has a lot sillier elements. It's a much sillier movie, and this is kind of like a silly Rocky in a way.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, like Rocky's like kind of like a cartoon where it's just like, like the first one's so grimy and like it feels like a real like up and coming type of story. And then Rocky 4, it's just like a big giant cartoon where he's fighting like super evil Russian man, and he beats him up so bad that he like ends the Cold War. So
Oh yeah, with his groundbreaking speech where he's like, "You guys suck. Russians, you need to change your ways."
we should start being friends to each other. And like, so yeah. I mean, it's not like I don't like these formulas or even Sylvester Stallone. It's just I would have liked. I don't think this director was really suited for this. I think there was putting way too much work on this kid. I mean, it was funny. Like I also found the Siskel and Ebert review of this movie,
Mhm.
and even Ebert said like, he's like, the only way this movie would have been better is if he just punched that kid right in the face.
That sounds like an Ebert line.
But Ebert said he actually loved the arm wrestling scenes. He said it was so exciting.
I mean, he's not wrong. It's a fun movie at the end of the day. That it has that Rocky formula that's just so like fun. We've seen a lot of movies that are just bad and boring, but this is at least bad and damn enjoyable.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost at the level of Rocky. I mean, it does have like that effect a little bit, and that's kind of what it feels like. Where Canon was like, we want to make a Rocky movie, and what better way to make a Rocky movie than actually getting Rocky?
Yeah, and spending a crazy amount of money to get him.
The arm wrestling scenes though were decent. I mean, they're pretty exciting to watch, but the thing that's a little ridiculous, which I'm guessing is a thing in real arm wrestling events, is all the faces people make. They're just like, like they like their teeth are gritting or like their mouths are like really wide open, like, oh.
I can only imagine because like putting all that pressure into an arm, like God, like if you see an arm wrestling in like real life, if you don't do it properly, it is like it can like hurt you, like break bones and everything. So like it seems tough.
So I actually have like a weird memory of this movie, and I don't remember because I remember watching I Love the '80s like on VH1,
Yeah, I
and they
love
actually
that show.
yeah, and they actually talked about this movie at one point, and I had this vivid memory, which I guess it's like a Mandela effect at this point, but I thought there was like a scene where a guy was arm wrestling a guy so bad, like his arm, like his bone, like broke and went through his skin. But I was like, that didn't happen in this movie, so that's
No,
why
it
I was like,
doesn't.
I guess it may be it was one of
I,
those where like I thought it did happen.
I want to say that happens in another movie, but it's not coming to mind. Or it could have just been a joke on I Love the '80s. It could,
Maybe.
yeah.
But there is a scene though where a guy does like kind of break his arm, but it's not very drawn out, where it's just like they show a guy like going, oh, my arm.
hmm Yeah, nothing too crazy.
Yeah. But you know what? Overall, give it a watch. Why not?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I say give it a watch. I think it's a fun movie. If what we said sounded like a bizarre trip, give it a shot, right?
If you I mean, Sylvester Stallone's got some pretty bad movies under his belt, and this one is definitely, if you love bad Sylvester Stallone movies, this is definitely one to watch.
Yep, just wait for Cobra, and then we might get into some actual really bad movies.
That's right.
hmm
But I think we're at the top. Now we're going to go climb down a little bit, and we're going to talk about what we're going to be talking about next time, Nathan.
Yeah. So next time, at the time of the recording, Gilbert Gottfried died just a few days ago, which is a really sad death. I think my dad put it best actually on the show before Hamburger, the motion picture, and that was an American Treasure. And I wanted to do a movie with him in it. Unfortunately, he doesn't star in a lot of movies. He's more of a character actor.
Right.
Yeah. So I picked the movie Highway to Hell. And Gilbert Gottfried is in this. He plays a certain historical figure, and we'll get into that on Tuesday.
Oh, okay. Well, sounds great.
Mm-hmm.
And is that one's available on Tubi? Right?
Yes, yeah, it is available on Tubi.
Perfect. Well, if you have any memories of Over the Top, or you just want to talk about the podcast, please send us an email at drivein-doubleFeaturePodcast@gmail.com. Also, follow us on Twitter at DIDFpod, where we'll post updates about each episode. But until next time.
Until